Good afternoon, everybody. We're just going to give it a minute, let a few more people join the webinar before we officially get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew Sorensen, a spokesperson here at CU Boulder. I'll be moderating today's call. Some quick housekeeping items before we get started. Today's webinar will be an update on ongoing university and city efforts to address the disturbance on the Hill on Saturday, March 6th. We will resume our regular cadence of alternating webinars next week, Tuesday, March 16th, with a focus on student and family questions for that session. If you have a question for the experts on today's webinar, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit a question. You can start doing that now. Please note we are continuing to prioritize and answer questions today related to Saturday's disturbance. We will do our best to get to all questions. If we do not get to your question, you can reach us at colorado.edu/COVID-19. Our experts will answer your questions until the scheduled end of the webinar. If by chance we run out of questions prior to that, we will end early. And as a reminder, today's call will be recorded. This recording will be available on our COVID-19 website. On today's call, we have Chief Operating Officer of CU Boulder, Patrick O'Rourke, CU Boulder Provost, Russell Moore, CU Boulder Police Chief, Doreen Jokerst, City of Boulder Police Chief Maris Harold, and heads up everyone, she will have to drop off at 12:45, and Boulder County Public Health Director Jeff Zayak. We're also joined by Jennifer McDuffie, Associate Vice Chancellor for Health and Wellness at CU Boulder. She's also heading up our campus pandemic response office. We have Senior Vice Provost Catherine Eggert, Acting Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs J.B. Banks, Acting Dean of Students Devin Kramer, and Commander Mark Heyer with CU Boulder Police Department. I'll now turn it over to Pat O'Rourke to get us started today.
Thank you, Andrew. First, I need to begin by thanking the first responders, including the Boulder Police and Fire Departments and our own University of Colorado Police for the work they do in protecting our community and our campus. For any first responder to be injured at the hands of a CU student is something that should never have occurred and must not happen again. Second, I want to apologize to the City of Boulder, and in particular to the residents of the Hill. You deserve to live in a neighborhood without fear of your safety, without your property being damaged, and without being disrespected. Last night, we participated in a conversation with Hill residents, City Council members, the Boulder Police Chief, Boulder County Public Health, and other community leaders. We are committed to working together to address our problems. Third, I want to express my support and thanks to more than 30,000 CU students who have not jeopardized our community, who have respected law enforcement and campus officials, and who have helped us to weather one of the most challenging years in CU's history. Many look at what happened last weekend and believe that all CU students are selfish and reckless. You are proof that thousands of CU students are talented, caring, and committed to your education in our community. We're very grateful for you and proud of you. Fourth, I know that many parents are joining us here today. Please understand that we're committed to providing a safe learning and living environment for your students. But I'm asking for your help. Please continue to remind your students to do the right things, to make good choices, and to not jeopardize their ability to remain members of our community. I want to reiterate what Chancellor DeStefano said this weekend and what we've been saying since. The actions of unmasked students who flooded the University Hill neighborhood as part of a large, uncontrolled party, and the actions of some in that group who threw bottles and rocks at first responders and police officers, and who tipped over a car and damaged vehicles and other property, are just unacceptable at any level. COVID fatigue and warm weather are not a reason to depart from basic fundamental standards of decency. The Chancellor noted in his message on Sunday that a basic condition for being part of CU Boulder is accountability to each other and to the community. We have stated in very clear terms that our students must comply with community safety standards and public health order protocols during the COVID-19 pandemic. What we saw on Saturday night is that a subset of our students don't believe they are accountable for their own safety and for the safety of our community. And that's unacceptable at any time, but particularly during a pandemic. And the fact is, the pandemic isn't over, and violating public health orders puts our community at risk. From a community health standpoint, we've consulted with our public health experts and with our colleagues at Boulder County Public Health, and we are advising anyone who attended the Hill gathering to quarantine immediately for a period of 10 days and to get a monitoring test on Thursday or Friday of this week. In support of our community, we're also expanding monitoring testing to the Hill community. Mobile testing for CU affiliates is going on this week at Pleasant Street from 8:30 to 5 p.m. daily. We'll also be at Pleasant Street next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, and at the Athens North location on Thursday and Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. For non-CU affiliates, we're offering community testing through our mobile site on Wednesday, March 18th or March 10th through Friday, March 19th. The space is limited. We have capacity for 375 tests per day, but we want to make sure that we have the ability to offer those tests to members of the community. For those who are fearful that getting tested might lead to disciplinary action against them, I want to be very clear that completing a monitoring test will not impact conduct sanctions to what occurred on University Hill. Any sanctions that result from the March 6th incident will be solely the result of the investigations that are underway from law enforcement authorities and campus student disciplinary officials. We will not be accessing any testing results in order to try to find people who attended the gathering, and please take the test to be able to protect yourself and others. Regarding those investigative and disciplinary processes, any student who either joined in the gathering in violation of public health orders or refused to disperse when asked by law enforcement is subject to disciplinary action by the university. For the students who engage in acts of violence towards law enforcement and other officials who responded to the area, or other egregious acts of destruction of property, they're different. They're an affront to our campus and our community. Any student found responsible for this conduct will face serious sanctions, with the most potentially serious violations resulting in expulsion from CU Boulder without the possibility of readmission. Those students may also face civil and criminal sanctions from the city and the county. We encourage anybody with information to report it to the Boulder Police Department first. Police will then refer cases to CU Boulder as their investigation unfolds. As this semester progresses, please be safe. Please take care of each other. We must use this to become stronger as a community. And now I'll turn it over to Provost Russ Moore.
Thank you, Pat. And first, let me reiterate what Pat said. This is a research university, and our research faculty, our staff, and our undergraduate and graduate students have played an important role in helping our campus, our community, our nation, and the world fight and contain COVID-19, a disease that has killed more than 6,000 people in Colorado, more than 500,000 in the United States, and more than 2.5 million worldwide. To see a small percentage of our students engaging in selfish, dangerous, unaccountable behavior we saw Saturday night is an insult to all that this university and community stands for. It is simply not who we are. Who we are is best represented by the students, staff, and community members who came to the Hill early Sunday morning and engaged in a cleanup, and by the vast majority of students who have complied with testing, who have endured the challenges of COVID in our residence halls and off campus, who have followed our safety protocols at all points along this very difficult year. While this incident is being investigated, I'm calling for a focus on our academic mission. I've communicated with our deans that faculty should continue to hold in-person classes this week, and we will continue to monitor COVID-19 cases and communicate any changes in operations or policy. Students should communicate directly with their instructors regarding self-quarantining and its impact on their academic work, and staff should continue their normal work schedules as planned. We understand that some faculty and students are concerned about exposure risks in the aftermath of the Hill incident. We have great confidence that the safety measures and preparations we made continue to make our classrooms, labs, and studios the safest places on campus, with no documented transmission of the virus, even during the spikes in student cases we observed during the fall. As we look ahead to March, April, and beyond, I want to sincerely thank the 30,000+ members of our student body who did not participate in this event, and for being mindful of our collective responsibility. Please know that your efforts are noticed, and we thank you for them. The coronavirus is still with us, and we must continue to adhere to masking, physical distancing, and testing until more of our community is vaccinated. There is daylight at the end of this tunnel. However, I believe we can get there together. I want to thank our staff in off-campus housing and neighborhood relations who have been and will continue to be a presence on the Hill, facilitating conversations and action to make things better. I want to add one more word to our students, faculty, and staff who may be struggling with mental health concerns, substance use, or depression and anxiety. Please know that you are not alone. We're here for you. Please seek assistance from CAPS, OVA, Health Promotion, the Collegiate Recovery Center, the Faculty Staff Assistance Program, your own physician or mental health provider. It's been a long, tough year, and we want to support you in any way we can. If you're unsure of where to go or how to ask for help, please feel free to reach out to wellness@colorado.edu, and we will get started with you. And now I'll turn it over to Jeff Zayak.
Thanks, Provost Moore, and thank you, everyone, for inviting me. Well, the first thing I want to say is that, to see what had happened this weekend was certainly disappointing. We've come from some history since the fall, and I want to bring us back to the fall because it's so important to remember that. When we had students come into the university back in the fall, we were in a very similar position as to where we are now. We have decreasing cases, which we've worked hard to get to. It's taken tons of partners. It's taken commitments from each of our community members, our residents that live here, to get to the place we are. And it's in a very similar place where we have low numbers of cases, we have low hospitalizations, and our deaths have significantly come down. Very similar place to where we were coming off the summer and coming into the fall. The last thing we want to see is an explosion of cases like we saw in the fall. And we know that that came from these very same types of illegal gatherings on the Hill. And we ask you to please, and I know as well, if you heard me talk about this on the press conference, I know that this is not the majority of our students. And for the students that are participating in this, we need this to stop. We can't go back into a place where we put our businesses at risk, where we put all of you at risk, where we put the university at risk of being able to be back safely, where we put our K through 12 at risk. They are going back full in time after the spring break, and we want all of our community to be able to open up safely, and we need you to be part of that. You are a critical part of this community, and without you, we can't do this. We can't have what happened this last weekend happen again if we want to maintain low case rates in our community. I thank so much all of the students, not only who did not participate in this, but the ones who took responsibility to go out and help support cleaning up the community that they live in. That's the kind of behavior that we are looking for in Boulder County, and we know is capable of every student that attends the university. There is light at the end of the tunnel, as Russ said. We have vaccines going out. We're going to have more vaccines by the end of the month, but we really need you to hang in there with us. Together, we can do this. We can. We just need to make sure that instead of getting into large groups, we're gathering in very small groups, wear masks, social distance, and we can assure much more so that students have a normal university experience without having to go into places like we did in the fall with stay-at-home orders and with restrictions on gatherings. Please help us focus in the direction that we need to so we can get through this together. And I believe at this point, I am turning it over to Chief Harold.
Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the invite up. I was asked to give a brief overview of our status of our investigation of what happened a couple nights ago. So here's where we are right now. The district attorney, Michael Doherty, has provided 3 additional investigators from his office to work with the Boulder Police Department investigative team. Chief Jokers from CU has also given me an investigator. We are reviewing over 600 hours worth of video. We are pretty much inundated by community tips with videos, names of people involved in the property damage and the violence towards first responders and other business along the Hill community. And so where we are right now is we've identified numerous suspects of the property damage. We are focusing in on the assaultive behavior toward firefighters and police officers. And I have committed to be transparent about this investigation. We will provide updates, and approximately every day, every morning, we'll provide an update of where the investigation is. But I am getting a lot of support from the community, a lot of tips, and a lot of identification of the people that were involved in this very tumultuous and violent behavior. I expect to have arrest within the end of the week, and we will continue with this investigation until as many people are identified as possible. It is my hope moving forward, we have extra contingencies for the upcoming 2 weeks. It is my hope that the students really heed the advice of city leadership and the college leadership, that we stay safe and that we are within community guidelines after the actions over the weekend. So I'll be available and take any questions that you have, but thank you again for the invite.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief Harold, for that update for our community. I'd first like to clarify a few things for the community before we do go to our question and answer. First and foremost, I would like to apologize for any confusion caused by the heading of our first community message sent Saturday night. That message included the email subject line, "Run, Hide, Fight." That message is part of the Department of Homeland Security's training for active harmer situations. Obviously, this was not one of those situations. It was an unfortunate mistake that caused some confusion in an already difficult situation. That is why the follow-up message included an explanation. We have already created a solution so that things like that do not happen again. Second, for incidents that do occur off campus, the primary jurisdiction falls on the Boulder Police Department. While CUPD was not directly involved, although we do share resources through a joint SWAT team, we were connected with Boulder Police Department leadership and assisted with direct messaging to our students. Third, CUPD is working with Boulder Police Department, as Chief Harold has indicated, to help collect photos and videos to identify potential people involved in the criminal activity and violations and university rules and the illegal activity. Our agencies are also working on a plan for joint policing efforts, and as Chief Harold said, increasing our visibility in and around the St. Patrick's Day holiday. Finally, I would like to add my voice to those expressing both disappointment and outrage for what occurred on Saturday. We deal with our students all the times on countless and positive interactions, and what we want and the campus community saw does not represent the majority of our CU students that we know and we work with every day. I'd now like to turn it back over to Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you to all of our panelists today. Again, if you have a question in terms of the topic that we're talking about today, you can put it in that Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We want to give all of you the maximum amount of time to ask your questions. If you have a question, again, that Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. The first question that we have for JB Banks And Chief Jokerst, what are you doing to prevent a repeat occurrence on St. Patrick's Day?
JB, would you like to take the first part of that question?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, but before I begin with my remarks, I do want to say how disappointed I was with our students. Certainly serving as acting vice chancellor for student affairs and my permanent role here as dean of students. So my world is all about what happens with our students, how we educate them, et cetera. So I do want to express some deep concerns around that, and certainly to our neighbors. We will be partnering with you and working harder to try to resolve some of these concerns that has existed for quite some time, quite frankly. Chief, let's talk about what we can do here. We will be having an increased presence over the next week or so. We have a number of programs that are planned around St. Patrick's Day, and certainly we'll have folks on the Hill who will be monitoring, handing out information to our students, building relationships, are very important. That's going to happen beginning actually this Thursday. So we're going to be really focusing on programming, alternate programming, certainly not thinking about parties and things of that nature, but some very safe and educational kinds of things we'll be engaging the students on. If we find that students have violated public health orders, we will handle that, and that could be up to expulsion. We're very serious about what we said last semester. We suspended 45 students. We're prepared to do the same, given the nature of these concerns. We're going to work hand in hand with Chief Jokerts, Chief Maris, all of our city officials to make sure, again, that this doesn't happen. And we're going to be prepared on every end from a programming perspective as well as enforcement. Chief?
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, JB. As JB has indicated, we will be increasing our patrolling activities. That's not just on St. Patrick's Day. We have a great working relationship and partnership under the leadership of Chief Harold with the Boulder Police Department. So you will see increased patrols and our officers out the weekends prior to St. Patrick's Day, this upcoming weekend, also on the holiday and after. And we have done this many times in the past, and we'll continue to make sure that we have additional physical presence out there, not only on our campus, but in the surrounding neighborhoods as well.
Thank you, Chief. A question here for Chief Harold. The photos that were released from Saturday night make it hard to recognize people. Are there better resolution photos to look at? If so, can you provide a link?
Can I provide a link? Was that the end of that question?
That was the end of the question, yes.
No, I think the best video that we're receiving is really from the body worn cameras the officers were wearing that evening. And we had undercover officers as well in the crowd. And we had our impact team that had body worn cameras. And so that's probably our best video, even though we are still encouraging the community to send us everything they have, because we do have photo enhancement technology that we can utilize. So it's important to note that body worn cameras give an excellent photo clarity. But we do have some mechanisms to enhance that. And so I continue to tell the community to send whatever they have, because we can do miracles with some of that stuff. And unfortunately, even though I've committed to be transparent about this investigation, we won't be releasing any of our body worn camera video until the end of the investigation. And District Attorney Doherty gives an all clear sign to release the video.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A question for student affairs experts, potentially JV Banks. 2 residents note that students make a habit of leaving cans in people's yards. Anything to be done about that?
Yeah, I mean, we do all that we can to make sure that we're educating students both in the classroom and outside of it. Certainly, personal responsibility is one of the things that we work on in our ResX curriculum. Students taking responsibility and being accountable are a couple of things that we oftentimes try to teach and make sure that our students are aware of and are able to execute by way of their behavior. I will note that feel free to say something to them. I think that that's important in holding students to a higher accountability in a neighborhood. We are doing all that we can to stress the importance of values, whether that is conversation about integrity, honesty, being responsible, cleaning up after yourself, etc. So we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can on our end. But as someone who's in that community, I think it's totally appropriate to say that it's inappropriate to leave trash. And that is totally unacceptable, as it was the other night with that party.
Thank you. Another question potentially for Student Affairs or Provost Moore. Did anything happen recently on campus that could have led to increased negative feelings recently? This person says it seems strange that this would happen now when the vaccine's on the horizon for many of us and things are looking slightly more optimistic.
Yeah, so I'll take the first crack at that answer. And to my knowledge, I don't think anything happened on campus that was untoward that might have created this situation or contributed to it. My speculation, it probably had to do with good weather and people feeling cooped up, and then things got out of control. But no, not to my knowledge. But I've turned over to Vice Chancellor Banks to see if he can provide any more to that answer.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything that we can point our fingers toward. I will say this: there were a couple of things that bubbled up that may have had students think in some way that this was okay. As you all are aware, or may be aware, we did not have an official spring break. So I have heard from some that this could have been more of a rebellion against our stance there from a spring break perspective, seeing that others, have taken spring breaks and such. Perhaps it could have been that, but I don't think there's any evidence that would suggest that anything was bubbling to the extent to where we would see the actions that took place on Saturday.
All right, thank you. A question here for the two police chiefs and potentially other CU officials. CU should have understood, this person says, that by inviting students back to campus, gatherings would likely take place. Was there any planning between the CU Boulder Police Department and the university how to break up gatherings early so that mass gatherings would not take place? And I think we'll probably have an answer from Chief Harold on that as well.
Yeah, I won't make a stance on CU bringing the students back, but I will tell you this, that Chief Jokers and I work together closely on a daily basis. There's probably not one day that goes by that we don't touch base on University Hill, our deployment strategy, trying to get enough personnel into the area to make sure that the community feels safe. Our command staff work closely together. In fact, one of the proudest things that I do on a daily basis is work with Chief Jokerst and trying to make sure that we have a safe arena. It's not all the time happens when the city police and the CU police or the university police have such a close relationship. So I feel really good about that. And we did put extra patrols, we did plan, and it's almost like on a daily basis, but I'm gonna certainly let Chief Jokerst speak to that as well.
I would just echo what Chief Harold said in regards to that. And it is a close collaboration and a partnership between both police departments. And we constantly look at reviewing and analysis on things that could be done better, things that should be done differently, what patrol deployment plans should look like for the betterment of our CU community and our Boulder community as a whole.
Thank you. Pat and Russ, do you maybe want to touch on the component of bringing students back to campus and how that calculus was made?
Yep, I'll take a first pass at this one. Based on the information that we had, the pandemic type of information that we had at hand, and paying close attention to the state COVID dial, as early as December, we felt pretty confident that bringing students back in February when we brought them back was actually a responsible and epidemiologically sound move by the campus. And taking into account also the mission of the university. We do believe that not only is it important to allow students to proceed with their academic development, there's also a big component of social development that college provides to especially young students. So in order to fulfill that mission and to try to do as many safe campus operations and deploy as many safe campus operations as we could. We thought that was the most responsible way to keep our community safe and to meet the mission of the university.
Andrew, I don't have anything to add to Russ's answer. That was exactly what I would have said as well.
Perfect. Back to both of you for our next question, though. This person writes, why are you only pursuing punishment to students who had conflicts with law enforcement and not simply everyone who was there? All those students were active super spreaders, the person says. Additionally, do you plan to take action as a university in holding them accountable, meaning expulsion, rather than relying on law enforcement?
So I want to be clear. We have different priorities as we are looking at this event. Our highest priority is assisting law enforcement in identifying and seeking sanctions that are going to be based upon the unlawful conduct that we saw, the violence towards police officers, those who engaged in property damage. Secondarily, we want to be looking at people who, through the parties, enabled this type of conduct to take place. Third, and as a tertiary priority, are trying to take disciplinary actions against students who attended the party and otherwise participated. But that with the number of students, we need to be able to focus our attention first and foremost upon those who engaged in the most egregious conduct that is absolutely violative of what our campus values are. We will be taking disciplinary action as appropriate and as we're able to do so, but that we need to be able to focus our efforts. We also know that we're not just deferring entirely to law enforcement in terms of that, but that our conduct processes are most effective when we do have reports from CUPD or Boulder Police. That's one of the reasons why we've asked people to refer information to the Boulder Police Department so that they can use that to be able to consider during the course of their investigations. And then, like they have throughout the course of the year, they will refer cases back to us, and we initiate our investigations and hold student accountable when the evidence allows us to make a finding of responsibility. We want to be clear, though, that any student who violates public health order, including attending a large gathering, can be subject to discipline from the university, but that the sanctions of expulsion and permanent removal from the university are the ones that we are looking primarily for those who engaged in conduct that was violent or destructive.
Thank you. Provost Moore, anything to add to that?
Nothing to add.
Okay, question for our two police chiefs on the call. It sounded like it took the police quite a bit of time to respond and attempt to disperse the crowd. What was going on there?
Yeah, so I've given a couple time frames, but I'll just try to summarize this quickly. At about 1:00 p.m., we started getting public health order phone calls for service to our computer-aided dispatch system. We sent code response officers into the area. They were not in the same area as our major issues at College and 10th in Pennsylvania. So these crowds were cooperative at the time. Warnings were issued, and the crowd at the time was cordial and dispersed. As the afternoon continued, we sent our impact team in and some undercover officers to try to dialogue with influencers within that crowd, which is considered a best practice to avoid any arrest or use of force situations. As those officers began to do their work, they noticed that this crowd was different. It was uncooperative, it was chaotic. And at that time, our officers, our impact team contacted the commander, and the commander came in. He viewed the situation by our drones and really got an idea of the size of the crowd. And at that time, we started requesting outside assistance from SWAT, county resources, state resources. And it wasn't until approximately 8:30 at night that we were able to disperse that crowd. I was on scene, my entire command staff was on scene. So we had probably 80 officers from Boulder PD and CU. And then in addition to that, and this is what I need everybody to understand, to get the deployment strategy up to the numbers that were required to contain the crowd and then try to disperse the crowd safely without using, a terrible amount of force on the students. It really does take resources from the entire county. And that is so unfair to do to other communities. Not only is Boulder impacted, but all of the resources that I have to request from other smaller agencies. So they leave their jurisdictions and we do not have coverage in those areas. And that's what the community has to understand, is how long it takes to build that deployment strategy out. And so while I'm getting help from CU officers, the state is coming in, Longmont is coming in. And so it really impacts the whole county. And if we if we did not get compliance eventually, then you have to talk about a regional response. And the money and the resources and the time that takes to get enough officers to safely disperse that crowd is really challenging work. And so I'm very grateful that the crowd eventually dispersed with limited interventions, but I need the community to understand the time that it takes to do that and the additional resources required from other jurisdictions, which is not fair, and it really leaves other jurisdictions in a much riskier place. I hope that answers the question a little bit, Andrew.
I think it does. Another question here for you, Chief Harold. Will Boulder Police be able to estimate the time, hours, and costs, to your point, Boulder Police will spend on policing CU College students, time and money that will be diverted from other important areas? Is there some kind of mechanism to charge back CU?
It's a great question, and I can just tell you this. We're talking a lot of money, and by the end of this, I will get a report on how much this incident costs, not only us, but CU and other jurisdictions that come in. We have mutual aid agreements, so obviously if this happened in another jurisdiction or on CU's campus, we would go in and help, and that's just the nature of public safety. And there's no mechanism, and I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is preventing this from ever happening again. And I'm very grateful that this situation ended in minor injuries to my police officers and no reported injuries to the community. And I think we have to take that as a win.
All right, thank you. Question here for Jeff Zayak. Do you think we'll see a surge in cases because of this?
Thanks for the question. I do expect to see a surge in cases. The numbers that we have for statewide, I don't know Boulder's right off, are about 1 in 194 people are infectious. So if you look at the size of the crowd, it means that we could have people that were infectious in that crowd. It'll take between 7 and 14 days for us to see that, up to a total of 14 days, but most infections will occur within that 7 to 9 day time frame. So that's what we'll be watching this, paying attention closely to it. And we'll be sharing that data on our website as we learn more.
All right, thank you. Another question for Chief Harold here. Do you have a status update on the injured officers? And this person wants to thank all of the first responders.
Hey, I really appreciate that. And fortunately, all 3 officers are just fine. The one that was so worrisome is the one that was struck in the face with a rock. And he had a tactical mask on that included a gas mask, very thick gas mask component to the face. So it probably saved him from significant injury. But we did have another officer struck in the back with a rock. I'm grateful he had a tactical vest on both in the front and the back. So nothing significant there. And then an officer, somebody threw a blunt object at his hand and injured the back of his hand, but nothing significant. And I really appreciate, and I will pass that question on to the patrol officers, because like I said, we got lucky here, and I appreciate the question a lot.
Absolutely. Another question for police chiefs, Provost Moore, and potentially some of our student affairs professionals on the call. What are city and CU officials doing to ensure that Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC folks, are not disproportionately affected by COVID spread or enforcement in the coming weeks, especially related to added policing and video screening?
Well, I'll address that from the perspective of the provost. We certainly intend to take an even-handed approach to responding to this situation. With respect to how policing would go, I'll defer to the chiefs to address that issue. But as far as that's concerned, we have no intention, and we'll be proactive to try to prohibit any disproportionate impact on our BIPOC community. JB, I don't know if you want to add to that before we defer to the chiefs.
Yeah, thanks, Provost. We are here to support our BIPOC community students. We have counseling in place if there's a need there. Certainly, we have affinity group opportunities for students to participate in clubs and organizations. Again, there's a number of pieces that we have in place to help support. If there are concerns, please report those concerns. And then we're able to take the next steps in providing some level of support to our BIPOC community.
I would just add, from the policing perspective, our departments are trained when it comes to prohibiting bias-based profiling. Our departments are trained when it comes to implicit bias. As we review the videos that have been sent out through Boulder Police Department and the photographs of those involved in this criminal activity, those photographs are shared between both police departments. We are here to support our BIPOC community, and our officers and departments are fully trained in that, to look at any type and to ensure no racial disparity in regards to that. Maris, I don't know if you have anything additional to add to the training or the video surveillance that's been sent out.
No, just keep in mind that both Doran and I are very active in reviewing data sets and arrest and traffic stops and reasonable suspicion stops. And so we're on top of our games when it comes to that data set. And obviously we invest a lot into training our officers to both effectively and equitably police Boulder.
All right, thank you. Question here for Pat, Jennifer, and potentially some of our COVID experts on the call. Since it's impossible to know who was at the gathering, why are you not requiring the entire CU community to get a COVID-19 test?
So the short version is that, first, we don't have the means to have the entire CU take a COVID test. We have the ability to track this and have been doing it for our residence hall students. They remain in a situation where they're being tested weekly. We've strongly encouraged and provided incentives for our off-campus student population to be part of the testing protocols, but I don't want to create a condition and say that every person in the CU community is required to take a test without having the ability to enforce that requirement.
Okay. Jennifer, maybe Jeff Zayak, anything to add there as far as community testing?
I'm happy to just add that this is the protocol that we use with other large gatherings like this. It's really difficult, number one, to know all who was there. And we really rely on people to take responsibility to go get tested. Again, I want to just illustrate a data point that is important from the state, and that's roughly 50% of the people that have the disease don't even know that they have it. So it's really important to get tested regardless. Testing is free, it's easily accessible. Please do take advantage of it because it helps assure everyone know that if they have the disease, and we can't follow up with every single person. We really need you to take personal responsibility to follow through.
And I just want to echo what everyone has said. One of the things that we've seen prior to the events of this weekend was a significant increase in the amount of testing We're seeing 1,500, 2,000 people per day. And like Pat mentioned, we have a lot of students, we have a lot of staff who are required, but we're seeing a significant increase through partnerships, through incentive programs for people to get testing. We're also really hoping that the message of this is free, the results are in 24 hours, and it takes 3 to 4 minutes is really something that can resonate. This is not information that we share with conduct or the police or anything in a negative way. We use this in order to keep our community safe. And I think it's also important to recognize that we have free testing for faculty, staff, and students who may feel that they're symptomatic through medical services. So definitely a multi-tiered approach. I think the last thing I'd also highlight is no matter what, please continue to monitor symptoms. What Jeff said is very poignant. We have so many people who do not know that they are symptomatic and can be spreading. Please complete the daily questionnaire. Please continue to follow all of the physical distancing, the masking, and most importantly, take advantage of the free testing.
All right. Again, I know Chief Harold had to run here at 12:45. Chief, if you're still on the call, thank you for coming and jumping in here. We appreciate it. For Pat and Russ, does this fundamentally change your approach to campus operations? How are you examining CU's student culture after this incident?
So this doesn't fundamentally change things. We'll certainly try to fine tune some of our campus operations around the edges. I do want to stress we have north of the 33,000 students on campus. And while I don't want to downplay the seriousness of the event that occurred on Saturday, it was only a small fraction of the students. So with respect to the other 32,000 plus students who were being responsible or being good citizens, I don't think we want to upset the operations for them when we actually don't have to. I do think, though, we will continue to focus on student education and working with our city and county partners, working with both police departments and working with our student conduct folks, is to really try to promote a more rigorous education campaign and try to intervene more effectively with our students. Again, I don't want to downplay what happened, but I also don't want to subject 32,000 plus students to big changes just because of the bad behavior and the very irresponsible behavior of 800 students or however many that were there.
Would add on to Russ's answer and actually also invite JB to be able to talk about this, but we are talking about how we will form relationships with people on the Hill. What's our engagement strategy? What are the things that we can do to be better partners within the community? One of the things that I'm really grateful for is that over the course of the past year, we've worked really well and cooperatively with the Boulder Police Department, the City of Boulder, their people who do code enforcement, our student conduct officials, all of which is, and Boulder County Public Health, which works to the benefit of the community. But that we also want to recognize that our students are members of the community, make sure that we are talking to them about the values and the responsibilities that they have as being members of the community and building relationships where we can. As Russ described, a lot of the fundamental things we do, how we educate students in the classroom, the need for us being able to offer in-person experiences, the need for people to be able to interact with their faculty, to be able to conduct research. Those things don't need to change, but we do need to be in a position where we're looking at our culture. What are our values and how do we build those within our community? And it's not just with our students, it's with our faculty and our staff, and really thinking about what can we do to make the campus strong, inclusive, and values-based. And that's not something that work that is being generated just because of this incident, but it's something that we also have to use on the back end to improve. And if we don't learn from what's occurred, then we need to to rethink what we're doing because the opportunities are here and we need to be good neighbors.
Thanks, Pat. I'll jump in as well. I echo everything that Pat and Russ said. I think we're at a pivotal time, and we have everybody at the table to make some major changes, and our students are right there in the center of all of it. So really working on a comprehensive plan as we move forward, almost like a master plan, so that we can benchmark progress, so that we can look at data and make some evidence-based decisions, so that we could evaluate our efforts and look down the road, 3 to 5 years down the road, where would we like to be in this partnership? We certainly don't want to see a repeat of what we saw on Saturday. And in order to do that, we are going to have to take the steps in order to mitigate those circumstances. So we're working on that. We had a good meeting last night, and even prior to that point, I believe that our relationships are better than I've seen them in terms of working with our PD, both with the city as well as on campus, our other partners, Jeff Zayak and his staff. We have done quite a bit of work to increase communication that has been really, really effective and have paid major dividends for us resolving some of these complex concerns.
Thank you. A question here for Chief Jokers. Are CUPD and Boulder Police using social media to find some of the people involved in the incident on Saturday? Many of the students posted videos of themselves on their social media accounts.
Yes, thank you for that question. Both police departments are using social media and other tools in regards to identifying some of the students that were involved. Some of those videos and photos have been shared on both police department social media accounts via Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I highly advise for people to take a look at those and see if they can identify anyone involved in that. The Boulder Police Department also has a link. So if you have additional video footage, surveillance, or additional intel that can assist with this investigation, I would highly encourage you to please forward that on. As Chief Harold indicated, they have about 600 hours of video so far. Over 750 tips have been put in. And I just want to thank our community for continuing to put that information forward and helping us with this investigation.
Thank you, Chief. Question here for JV Banks, Jennifer McDuffie. How will you ensure that students who attended the party will quarantine and take necessary actions to protect in-person classes and the rest of the community?
Yeah, I could, Dr. J. Dr. You want to take that, and then I'll jump in.
Thank you, JB. I think that that's a really good question. And what we're doing is we're asking all students who were there to quarantine to continue with those public health measures of masking, good hygiene, and really limit exposure. I think that the question, though, is really a multi-tiered approach. Not only are we expecting that and communicating that, it's also enforcing it. How do we reinforce the buff pass? How do we ensure testing? How do we make sure that our students know, as well as our faculty and staff, that we're doing everything that we can to protect the greater good? And that includes our buff info line for any questions, for any support or information. But it also includes making sure that we have more availability this week and next. Just to let you all know, with the mobile testing, we're able to deploy that into certain areas, and we're as close to the hill and some of the through traffic as we can be. And then I think additionally, it's with our faculty and staff and supporting them through continued vaccine clinics and making sure we're doing everything that we can to get any person who is eligible for the vaccine a vaccine as soon as possible. And I know that that doesn't necessarily help this week related to the events, but I think it's through that multi-tiered approach that we'll be able to better or best protect our community.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add. Dr. McDuffie answered that fantastically.
Wonderful, thank you. Question for Provost Moore. Why are you still holding in-person classes given the risk?
Yeah, so again, as I alluded to earlier in this meeting, our classroom environments are quite safe. We've gone to great lengths to prepare social distancing. We've gone above and beyond the CDC norms and standards. We've made huge investments in our HVAC systems. So with all of that put together, as I alluded to earlier in the meeting, we haven't had any documented cases of COVID transmission in our classrooms or our laboratories, given that we've taken these safety measures. So we do believe that we've designed those measures to protect folks from people who might inadvertently be infected. And so far, it looks to be working almost perfectly. And the only reason I say almost is because I'm just saying that we don't have any documented evidence, and we've looked at this quite closely. So we don't believe that we're putting our faculty or our staff at any more risk than we were in the fall.
All right, thank you. Another question for Provost Moore, and I imagine JD Banks will have something to add to this. Are you passing the buck by allowing fraternities to exist largely unmonitored off campus?
Yeah, so first of all, the university doesn't have purview over whether or not a fraternity exists. Those are external organizations, nor do we have purview over other congregate housing situations. That said, some of our fraternities are affiliated with the universities and some aren't. And we do have a pretty robust engagement. We try to have robust engagement with our fraternity, with our fraternities on the Hill and elsewhere. And Vice Chancellor Banks is actually involved in that, so I'll defer to him. But I just want to be clear, the university doesn't create fraternities, nor do we have the authority to abolish them.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, Provost. We are very engaged with our off-campus fraternities. We are meeting frequently with the fraternal leadership, chapter presidents. We have a great relationship with their advisor, Mark Stein, as well as working with Mike Smith. So there's a lot of collaboration between CU and our IFC men on the Hill. And let me just say for the record, we don't have any indication at this point that fraternities or sororities were involved or have started any of these events. So I don't want to point the finger at our fraternity members or sorority women because we just simply don't have the evidence that would support that. So we're going to continue to collaborate with them, work very closely with them, certainly partner in helping to resolve again some of these issues that we're talking about today.
Thank you. Question for Provost Moore. Is it true that some faculty are refusing to hold in-person classes now? What can be done if that is true?
To my knowledge, I have not heard that any faculty are refusing to hold in-person classes. In fact, to the contrary, I met with my deans, some of my deans yesterday and some this morning, and there was no indication that any of the faculty there was no indication that any faculty are refusing to teach. And in fact, many of them were expressing concern that we not switch modalities and that we stick with what we're doing now.
All right. And I believe this is going to be our last question, just looking at the time. For Provost Moore and potentially some of our student affairs professionals, what assurances can you offer to families of incoming new students that incidents such as the ones over the last weekend will not be repeated?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I can't provide guarantees, but by way of assurances, we do, again, I go back to making sure that these kinds of events don't negatively impact the rest of our community is a community engagement issue. So all of the members of our campus community have a responsibility in this regard. So again, 32,000 plus students who are responsible. When students come to CU, we expect them to come behaving responsibly and being active citizens of our campus community. And I think if we can provide that for our students, and if the students will come to us with that mindset, I think we can vastly minimize the likelihood of events like this occurring. But Just like any other risks that we all face on a day-to-day basis, I can't provide guarantees, but I can tell you that we are doing our level best to try to provide a safe and productive environment for all of our faculty, staff, and students. JB, anything to add?
Yeah, and Provost, we're just looking and hoping for fall to be different as well, and so that we could really begin to hone in on building community. We talked a lot today about values. We talked about responsibility and taking a responsibility. Certainly, a different looking fall is going to give us an opportunity to engage the students in a very different way. And so we're looking forward and hoping for the best in the next few months.
Thank you. Again, I want to advise everyone that we're taking a slightly different approach to our webinars this semester. We're alternating between faculty and staff campus Q&A sessions and student and family campus Q&A sessions. Next week, on Tuesday, March 16th, the campus Q&A will focus on students and families. The next faculty and staff campus Q&A will be the following week on March 23rd. Those updates will occur on a weekly basis throughout the spring semester from noon to 1 p.m. Mountain Time, with our last webinar scheduled for Tuesday, April 27th. If you have more questions or you'd like to see any additional information, you can do so by visiting our COVID-19 website. Again, that's colorado.edu/COVID-19. There you can find a chat at the bottom right-hand side of the site where you can ask questions. Boulder County Public Health is also hosting community briefings this year. Those are every other Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Boulder County Public Health's agenda at those meetings is to provide updates from BCPH leadership, provide updates from public health professionals on current topics, including vaccinations, testing, and other data, as well as updates from local partners. Lastly, the City of Boulder does a once-a-month briefing on the third Thursday of every month. Those are from 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you all for joining us today. We also want to thank our external partners who joined us today, and we will now end the call.